welcome back to my channel. My name is Edson. Today we're going to do a continuation of our Python game development using a library called Pygame-ce. Alright, so like I promised last time, today we're going to look at surfaces. What is a surface? So I'm going to consult with the documentation, go to most useful stuff, and then go to surface. Click on surface, and then you'll see this page right here, Pygame object for representing images. An image is a visual representation of something. In Pygame, you're going to be dealing with 4 different kinds of surfaces. The first one, we already created one. That surface is the main surface, which is our display surface. So right here on line 7 right here, this is our main surface. And every game has to have the main surface. Our main surface right here. So we can print this. So to print this, we're going to assign this to a variable. So I'm going to call this win in short for window. Then I'm going to print this down here so that you guys can actually see what it is. It's a surface object. And so I'm going to save this and run our game. Run that. If we close this window, you can see down here a surface has been printed. So this win right here is a surface. These are the dimensions, the width and the height. And the 32 is the color depth. The second type of surface that you're going to be dealing with is what we call an imported surface. Right, let me comment this out. Imported surfaces, images, your sprites that you're trying to bring into the game. For instance, I have this background image that I have right here. It could have a different format like JPEG, PNG, etc. So you can use all these images in Pygame. And so there's a module to handle images in Pygame, which is called the image module. So let me click on that. And see right here is a Pygame module for image transfer. So you can use this method, load new images from a file. You can also load an SVG image from a file. All right, so let me go back. So I'm going to call it img image pygame.image.load. And then we need to specify the file name. Our file name in this case, /, is in the current directory, is called background1.png like that. So it has to be a string like this in quotation marks. So we can print this out as well to check whether this is a surface or not, just like we did with our main surface. So we can print this img. We're going to run this right here. Let me see. And then close this. You can see down here, indeed, this is a surface. You can see this is a surface object. And it has a global alpha property right here. This is the transparency of the image. It's a value between 0 and 255. 255 means it's opaque. 0 means it's transparent. You can set this value by using set alpha. I don't want it to be fully opaque. I want it to be somewhat transparent. I can say here img, which is this surface right here. So set underscore alpha. These are methods, by the way, defined within the module. If you go to surface, you can see right here, you can set the alpha of a surface. And so we can set the alpha. And we can specify a value here. Let's say just 120. Initially, the global alpha was 255 by default. And then we changed it to 120. Let's see whether this is going to update. If I run that and close, you can see down here now the global alpha is 120. So this is how you can change the opaque of the image. And the third type of surface that you're going to be dealing with is what we call the text surface. Text surface. Okay, text will be represented as a surface in Pygame. So the way we create a text surface, we have to create a font object. I'm going to go to font right here. So click on that. So for us to create a font object, we can either use sys font, creates a font object from the system fonts, or we can use this font right here. It creates a new font object from a file. If you want to create from a file, you have to have that TTF file. In our case, we don't have any TTF files, so we're going to try and use system fonts. But if you're not sure which system fonts you have, there's a way to check for the system fonts. You can print this pygame.font.get_fonts. This will print out your system fonts on your computer, and then you can choose any one of those fonts that you might want to use. So let's try and print this and see the fonts that we have, and then we grab one from those fonts, and then we use it. Let me clear this first, and then you can see these are the fonts that we have. They are printed down here. I'm going to use this one, so I'm going to use impact. We know I'm going to use impact, and so the way we create a font object, or we can use pygame.font dot font like that, and then we specify the name of the font that we want to use. In our case, we want to use that code impact. The second argument to this is going to be the size of that font. It's going to be 30 pixels. This creates a font object right here, so we're going to assign this to a variable. I'm going to name it just text. After you create this, you then have to render this text dot render. You can call the render function. You pass in the text that you want to render. Let's say I want to render something called school. This is the text that will show on the window. Then you can specify whether you want to anti-alias this or not. I want to anti-alias, so I can pass in a true right here. Assign this to a variable, so I'm going to call it a text underscore surface. This is our text surface like this. So we have the main surface, which is our display surface. We have imported surfaces, which is our images. We also have our text surface, which is created in 2 steps. You create a font object and then you render that. Let's print our text surface. So right here, I'm going to print our text underscore surface. So if I'm to run this, let me clear right here, then run our game. Something wrong. Let me see. Okay, you have to specify the color, okay, because it's required. You can use a tuple like this, or you can use the actual color name, like white right here. And I'm going to use a tuple, 255, 255, 255. This is RGB, which is going to represent a white. I'm sure this is going to work now. Run this. You can see now we have this, and if I close that, you see we do have our surface right here, which is our text surface. Last but not least are what we call custom surfaces. These are surfaces that you create yourself. You have to create them by using the surface function in Pygame. So you can say Pygame dot capital letter S and then surface like that. And then in here, you can pass in the dimensions of the surface that you're trying to create. Let's say I'm trying to create 100 by 100, the width and the height, 100 by 100 pixel surface. And then you can assign this to a variable. So I'm going to call it custom underscore surface. Okay, so we can print this out, custom surface, and then save this. Then we're going to try and run our game and see whether we get that. So run this, and then close the game. And then down here, you can see these are custom surface that we created, 100 by 100. So basically, these are the 4 ways that you can create a surface in Pygame. And let me show you something right here. If I run our game again right here, you might be wondering, where are those surfaces? We cannot see any. We only see one surface, which is our main surface, which is this display surface. Well, for you to be able to see the other surfaces, you have to put them onto the main surface. There is this terminology that we use in game development. It's called blitting. I'll come here into the while loop. Okay, so this blit is an acronym for block image transfer. BL block, I image, T transfer. We need to transfer those surfaces onto the main surface. So the way we do that is we use a built-in function called blit. So we can say win, which is our main surface, dot blit. And then we specify the surface that we want to blit, which is our IMG, which is our image surface, which is this IMG right here, our imported surface. And then we specify the coordinates where we want to blit this image. So the way coordinate system works in Pygame, we have this, our main window. Let me make this a little bit bigger right here. So this top corner here is 0, 0, 0 for X and 0 for Y. This is our X axis, this is our Y axis. This is the width of the window, and this is the height of the window. And so when we say blit on 0, 0, it means it's going to blit starting from here, and it's going to blit the top left corner. Let's say this is our background picture that we want to blit onto this surface. It's going to take this top left corner right here and then put it here onto 0, 0. So it's going to blit it somewhere here like this. So if we don't specify where we want to blit, by default, it's going to be blitted on 0, 0. But we can just specify to be safe. After we blit this, there's one more step that you need to do in Pygame. So the way Pygame works, it uses what we call the concept of back buffers. So let's say this is our main window. That window has a back buffer. Let's say you want to draw something. You draw it on the back buffer, and we cannot see it on the main window as yet. We have to swap this, and then we send this to the back. And so there's a function that we use if we want to swap the buffers. We can say Pygame, because we are doing it on the display, we call the display module Pygame.display.flip. It's going to flip the buffers. So let me spell Pygame correctly right here. There are 2 methods that you can use. There is flip. There is also update right here. Update. Update is going to update portions of the window. But when you flip, you're flipping everything. Let me just use flip. Let me save this and then run this and run our game. Now you can see that our image is now appearing on this main display surface. Of course, the image is too big. It's 5,000 by 5,000 and our window is about 800 by 800. It's not that big. And so we are seeing a portion of that image. But of course, you can then transform this image if you want it to fit on the window. It's not something that we're going to talk about today. All right. And then we also need to blit this text surface. To blit the text surface, by the way, the order in which you blit your stuff matters. So here we are blitting the image first. We want to blit win.blit text underscore surface. I'm sure that's what we called it. And then we specify again the coordinates where we want to blit that. The top left corner, so it's going to be 300, 300. That's where I want to blit this. If I save this and run this now, you can see there's a text here called score, which is exactly this text right here, which we created right here. Last but not least, we can blit this custom surface right here. So let me remove this line right here. To blit a custom surface is the same. So win.blit, and then we want to blit the custom surface, and we want to blit it on 400, 400, and run our game. And if we check out, we can see there's a black surface right here. By default, custom surfaces are black in color. If you want to change the color, you can call the fill method on a surface, any surface. Let me go to our surface right here, go to the surface. You can call the fill here, pygame.surface.fill. Fill surface with a solid color. We can do that by calling the fill here. We can say custom surface.fill. And then maybe want to make it white, which is, you can use the string white, but I prefer using tuples 255, 255, 255 for RGB. If I save this and run this, I'm sure that square is going to be white. You can see that right here, that square is now white. If you find these videos helpful, you can leave a like. You can also consider subscribing to the channel. I hope to see you in my next tutorial. For now, I'm out. Cheers.